Paige Cullen's harrowing story serves as a brutal reminder of the devastating effects of ketamine addiction. Far from the glamorous image of a party drug or the promising cure-all for depression that some portray it to be. What began as casual experimentation at a rave spiraled into a dangerous habit that cost her thousands of pounds, left her in constant pain, and ultimately destroyed her bladder. Now, at just 25, she is living with irreversible damage, her bladder shrunk to the size of a shot glass, her body permanently scarred by years of abuse. Her experience is a grim warning for anyone who underestimates the long-term consequences of ketamine use. Ketamine is often marketed as a breakthrough in mental health treatment, praised for its ability to lift depression and PTSD symptoms where traditional medications fail. But what is often left out of the conversation is how quickly its use can spiral out of control, leading to devastating health issues. Paige's story illustrates just how insidious ketamine addiction can be. What started as an occasional indulgence soon became a daily dependency, consuming her life. At her worst, she was using up to 10 grams a day, an extreme but not uncommon trajectory for heavy users. The financial toll was staggering, with Paige spending over £1,000 per month on the drug. But the true cost came in the form of her health, as ketamine ravaged her body in ways she never could have imagined. One of the most severe and often overlooked dangers of ketamine addiction is bladder damage, known as ketamine bladder syndrome or KET bladder. The drug is highly toxic to the urinary tract, causing severe inflammation, pain, and, in Paige's case, catastrophic shrinkage of the bladder. She initially experienced frequent urination, an early warning sign that something was wrong. But as her addiction deepened, the symptoms worsened. She began passing pieces of her bladder lining, described as peeing jelly. The pain became unbearable, and she found herself trapped in a cycle of agony and dependence. Despite knowing the damage she was doing, she couldn't stop. This is the cruel nature of addiction. Even when the consequences are clear, stopping is not as simple as making a choice. Paige was caught in a vicious loop, waking up each day promising herself she'd quit, only to use again hours later. Her daily life became unmanageable, with up to 50 desperate trips to the bathroom per day. Eventually, she became so unwell that she couldn't leave her house for months. The stark reality is that her bladder is now permanently damaged. Her body will never function as it once did. She undergoes regular treatments to ease the pain, but the damage cannot be undone. Ketamine use is rising at an alarming rate, particularly among young people. Government statistics show that its use in England and Wales has more than doubled in under a decade, with 3.8% of those aged 16 to 24 admitting to using the drug in 2023. The surge in popularity is fueled by its reputation as a safe, a falsehood that stories like Paige's expose. Many users fail to realize that the same drug being prescribed for depression in controlled medical settings is also destroying lives when misused recreationally. The tragic death of drag star The Vivian earlier this year, attributed to ketamine use, is yet another example of how deadly this substance can be. Despite growing evidence of its dangers, ketamine is still widely seen as a relatively low-risk drug, even as more young people suffer severe consequences. The government is now facing increasing pressure to reconsider its classification, with some arguing it should be moved from a Class B to a Class A drug due to the rising number of hospitalizations and deaths. However, legislative changes alone won't be enough to curb its growing use. What's needed is a serious cultural shift in the way ketamine is perceived. Paige is now speaking out in the hope of preventing others from making the same mistakes. Her story is a wake-up call to those who believe ketamine is harmless or that addiction is something that happens only to other people. The reality is far more brutal. Ketamine doesn't just take a toll on mental health, it physically destroys the body. Once the damage is done, there is often no way back. As more high-profile figures, including Elon Musk, openly discuss their ketamine use, there is a real risk of the drug becoming further normalized. While medical supervision and controlled dosages may work for some, the wider public is unlikely to use ketamine in such a measured way. Paige's story is proof of what happens when ketamine use spirals out of control: addiction, physical destruction, and, in some cases, death. Ketamine is not a harmless party drug. It is not a miracle cure for depression. It is a substance that ruins lives, and if its dangers continue to be ignored, we will only see more stories like Paige's. Young people permanently damaged by a drug they once thought was just a bit of fun.